Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar focused on the alarming truth, a campus fire safety project led by the Cleary Center for Security on Campus in partnership with a number of other incredible individuals. This webinar is our second to last webinar in a series of free webinars during National Campus Safety Awareness Month. My name is Abigail Boyer, Assistant Executive Director of Programs for the Cleary Center. With me is the Cleary Center's Program Manager, Amy Guthrie, and Ed Camo, publisher of Campus Firewatch and one of our partners for this project. Before we get started, Amy's going to review a few housekeeping items.
Great, thanks, Abby. You'll notice that there is a questions pane on your control panel, and we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments there throughout the webinar. We will dedicate the last 15 minutes to address these. We will also use the questions pane to communicate relevant information and links to resources that are mentioned. If you are using social media throughout the event, please use the NACSAM 2014 hashtag. We've enjoyed a lot of the conversations and information that people have been sharing so far, so keep them coming. Also, you will receive a recording of today's session within 48 hours of the session, and then we will also be posting it on the Cleary Center's YouTube page, where we've been keeping all of the NACSAM webinar recordings. Finally, we will also be conducting a short survey at the end of the webinar, and we would very much appreciate your thoughts and suggestions so that we can keep providing you with the best information and resources that we possibly can in the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Amy. We were incredibly excited to share this project with institutions starting this summer, and it's been really amazing for us to see the response from colleges and universities who plan to implement the tools. So our goal for this particular webinar is to introduce you to the film, walk you through some of the tools available for you to use so that you can best utilize the film on your own campus, and then hear a little bit more from you about some of your own prevention initiatives, what you think is working, what may not have worked on your campus, and really talk about how this project can be used in a comprehensive approach to campus fire safety prevention. But first, we're going to start with a poll. So we just want to start by getting a sense of really who is in the room. So if you could just take some time to answer what your particular role is on campus. Okay, we'll just leave some time. It looks like many of you are still voting. Great. So it looks like we definitely have a lot of representation from campus security and fire safety, but I love to see that we also have a mix from campus housing, campus administration, local fire departments, and public education specialists or other folks doing education on campus. We really love to see a good mix of people looking to get the information. As Amy will talk about in just a moment, we really took a collaborative approach to this project because we really feel that that's the best way to get results, really looking at how can we do this as a team. So it's really clear by your answers that you also recognize that prevention needs to have a number of different people at the table to be able to send those consistent messages. So Amy's going to talk a little bit about some of the folks that were at the table for our project.
So for us, when we worked on this project, we knew that we wanted campus safety experts to lend their insights. We also wanted feedback from students, which was incredibly important to make this video relevant. And we wound up what wound up happening is that we got a combination of really incredible folks who were truly committed to creating a resource that would fill a need at universities and colleges. For those of you who are familiar with our organization, who are not familiar with us, we are a national nonprofit that was founded by two parents, Connie and Howard Cleary, whose daughter Jean was unfortunately murdered on her college campus in 1986 by another student whom she did not know. As an organization, we work to build safer campus communities, primarily through education and training, and by collaborating to create resources such as this one. This training was a partnership with a number of different individuals and organizations. Joining us on this webinar is one of our key collaborators, Ed Camo, who will tell you a little bit about what he does.
Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Abby. This was a great project, and as they were saying, it was a collaboration among a number of different organizations, and I was really proud to be a part of it. Campus Firewatch, it started out as a newsletter back in 2000, but it's really grown into a social enterprise doing so much more than just a newsletter, and I'm working on a lot of projects just like this one where we're trying to create tools that colleges and universities and fire departments and everybody can use in making students more aware of the importance of fire safety. So I was really glad to have the opportunity to work with such great people on this project.
Thanks, Ed. We also worked with Michael H. Minger Foundation, which was founded following the death of Michael Minger in a residence hall fire. They focus on developing campus fire safety education opportunities and resources, which we've included quite a few of within our website and within our screening guide as well. Rowan University School of Film and Television also played a key role. The students from the university radio, television, and film department directed and produced the film. Student involvement in production was critical to making it relevant, as I mentioned before. We also had an incredible amount of support from the Philadelphia Fire Department. They were instrumental in providing people, apparatus, and location for the shoots, as well as their expertise in making sure that everything was realistic. University of Pennsylvania also provided access to sites and an off-campus house that we used for the apartment that was depicted in the film.
And we just want to share a little bit about how this came to be, because it certainly informs what you're going to see in just a moment. The Cleary Center was incredibly fortunate to receive a DHS Fire Prevention and Safety grant, and without this grant, this project certainly would not have been possible, so we are so appreciative for that. And because of that, we were able to bring together all of the different partners that Amy just mentioned. And so we started out by really developing a script. The idea came from a project that Ed had worked on in the past, and one of the things that kept on coming up over and over is we need to have insight from students. We might have certainly subject matter expertise, but we need to make sure that students are on board and that whatever we create is something that they really feel as though they'll respond to. So all of us were able to really get in a room and work through what's going to be powerful, what's going to be presented in a way that they can really understand and process, and how can we also make sure that they have the information that they need, which we'll talk a little bit more about the content in just a moment. And so from there, after we developed the script, we were able to move forward with shooting the film. We made the brilliant decision to shoot the film and have scenes that are outside in the middle of March in Pennsylvania, end of February, beginning of March in Pennsylvania. So as those of you who are familiar with East Coast weather know, we did have to manage some snow and some of those details. But incredibly, the partners were all really committed to this project. We were able to work through those issues and get a rough cut that we were able to screen to over 200 students in 3 student feedback sessions in 3 different states. So we did one in Boston, we did one in Florida, we did one here in Philadelphia. And what that did was really help us understand, are we doing what we set out to do? Are we creating a film that students will respond to? And students were incredible, not just those that worked on the film, but those during the feedback sessions. They were completely willing to be honest with us. So they were certainly able to tell us if we were, or when we were doing things that were kind of out of touch with what they would pay attention to and respond to. And they also just had some really incredible suggestions for what we could do to even improve it, make it better. And so all of the film partners were able to work together to eventually create the film that you're going to be able to screen in just a moment, and some of the accompanying materials. So those feedback sessions and all of the feedback that we received from the partners throughout the project really informed what you're going to see as a result and what you're going to be able to utilize on your own campus. All of these project materials were then put on a website, which is www.alarmingtruth.org. We'll also put a lot of these links and continue to put these links within the chat area so that you're able to access them yourselves as we go through this webinar. But we wanted to make sure that there was also a comprehensive website available so that no matter what, you have everything that you need in order to utilize this tool on your campus. And so Ed's going to take some time and just talk a little bit about some of the areas that we focused on for this film, why we made those decisions, and what informed our process moving forward.
Well, thank you, Abby. One of the problems that we always face as campus fire or as fire safety professionals is we really want everybody to know everything they need to know to be fire safe. We want them to know about cooking, smoking, electrical, heating, exits, everything under the sun. Well, the trouble is when you do that, if you try to throw it all in there, really what they've learned is nothing. You just overloaded them, you've shut them off. So we had a lot of discussion about what we felt are probably the most the three most important things we'd like them to know. And in addition, we wanted to pick three topics that they had control over so that they would have the power to make themselves fire safe. So after a lot of discussion, we really came down to three areas. First one was smoking, and that's mainly because smoking is the leading cause of fatal fires in all occupancies, not just campus related, but all occupancies. And one of the points that we're thinking is these are lessons for life. Certainly what they're going to learn is going to protect them and make them safer while they're on campus, but the lessons they're learning are lessons that we're hoping that they will carry for the rest of their lives. And so what we want to do is teach them things that they could learn, they could know, and they could apply forever. So certainly smoking was one of the leading causes that we want to look at. By far, it's, most people die from fires caused by careless disposal of smoking materials. Generally, these fires break out at night. And what we learned from the focus groups, too, is that many people didn't realize that. We as fire safety professionals kind of take that for granted. But what we're learning is many students, matter of fact, I'd say just about all the students, didn't realize that smoking is such a leading cause of fatal fires. And what was interesting, too, as a matter of fact, during some of the focus groups, the reaction of some of the students was that they felt that we were demonizing smokers, that we're portraying them in a negative light. It's another one of those, oh, okay, we're going to hear about the bad things about smoking again. But when we explained to them the reasons behind it, the why, they were far more understanding. And they said, oh, okay, the light bulb kind of went on. Certainly looking at exits, knowing two ways out is just so vitally important. And tragically, there was a fire in Reading, Pennsylvania last week where a student was killed. He was down in a basement room and was not able to get out of the room successfully and was killed. But also kind of one of the positive things out of this fire is up on the third floor were 4 students who were able to make it down to the second floor, had to climb out a window onto a roof of a porch and then shimmy their way down from there. Many students don't realize that their second way out may be a window, or as these students learned, a window to a roof and then climbing down from there. So we felt it was really important to teach them the idea behind knowing a second way out and recognizing that, again, it's not going to necessarily be another door like they would have in a classroom or they might have in a nightclub or a restaurant. It may be a window. So learning what their second way is, exit out, thinking what they're going to do. Do they need to buy an escape ladder? We had a tragic fire about 2 years ago in Boston here where the student was on the third floor and she was trapped and unable to get out and was killed up there. Whereas if she had an escape ladder to get out of there, it may have very well made a difference between life and death for her. And the last one is smoke alarms. That's kind of a frustrating one in a way that so often we see these occupancies where the smoke alarm is missing or disabled. It was there in September when they rented it. But sometime prior to the fire, the smoke alarm was either disabled or taken down or some other way rendered inoperable. So we really want to teach students the importance and the value of smoke alarms and the implication of just what to them is an innocuous thing of taking a battery out, for example. Smoke alarms going off because of cooking, and they disable it. They take the battery out, or they take the smoke alarm down altogether. There was one fraternity fire I went to where they had actually covered the smoke alarms, all the smoke alarms, with plastic and tape so they wouldn't be going off from smoking. But they didn't realize the full implication of what's going to happen to them, what's such a simple and seemingly innocuous thing. So we're really focused on these 3 topical areas. One, because they are so important. If you eliminate smoking, you eliminate a significant ignition source that causes fatal fires. 2, if they're able to recognize 2 ways out, if a fire does break out, it may make the difference between life and death, either at the moment or by planning ahead, by having something like an escape ladder, for example. And 3, by not disabling a smoke alarm or even installing smoke alarms if they don't have them in place. The line that I always use is, for the price of pizza, you can have peace of mind. So those are the three topical areas that we really focused on, and you'll see those messages throughout the video as we're going along. So, okay, back to you, Abby.
Thank you. And as we've mentioned, all of these different resources can be accessed on www.alarmingtruth.org. So what we're going to do after we screen the film is actually go into the website and show you where in the website you can find it and walk through some of the different details. One of the key things that we've mentioned is the lesson plan. So the lesson plan will walk you through some different activities that you can use when conducting an in-person program with your students. But we also want to emphasize when we get to it, and I'll certainly say it again, that none of these materials are meant to be prescriptive. So you best know your campus culture, and we're seeing these materials being used in a number of different ways already, especially from the folks that have attended some of our in-person seminars. So we're seeing in-person programs, we've seen institutions that are hosting the video on their website for some passive programming, as well as sharing it through social media. So anything that we'll share during this webinar are certainly just suggestions, but we want you to use the tool in a way that best suits your own campus. So at this point, we want to take some time to screen the video using the link. So what we're going to do is Amy is going to post, or she already posted, the link to the Alarming Truth right there in that chat function. So we're going to take a few minutes and ask you to screen the video through the website, and then we'll return here and really talk through that lesson plan and what that looks like. So you can either use that link, or you can go separately to www.alarmingtruth.org to screen it, and then we'll be back in about 7 minutes and we'll talk about it a little bit further. So stay connected to the webinar, but do click on that link so that you can screen the video yourself. Just so that you all know, we were thinking about screening it through the webinar platform, but we found that a lot of you would have some technical difficulties if we went with that format. So we found that this is going to be a lot more effective for your own computers, so that you're not dealing with any of the delays that might occur as a result of the system. So again, you can go ahead and launch that video now, and then we'll talk about it in a few moments. All right, so hopefully all of you had the chance to take some time and screen the film. It looks like many of you have had the chance and you're now back with us. So we'd love to get your initial thoughts as folks are rejoining us. So what we'd like you to do is on the side screen, as Amy mentioned, you have a area where you can type in your own comments and thoughts and questions. So we'd like you to take some time and just plug in what you thought of the film and any ideas that you have for how you might be able to use it on your campus. Great. So I have a lot of great feedback. Love to hear that a lot of you are saying that you think it looks great and that it's effective. That's certainly our goal in creating the film. And also some folks sharing about some other issues that pop up on their campus and how they might be able to work in some of the specific challenges that they're seeing at their institution into a more overall comprehensive approach. Good basic intro and other levels of training that we might consider very realistic and provides a powerful message. Wonderful. Working it into a PowerPoint. Excellent. So we're glad to hear that the initial feedback is that you find it useful, that there's a clear message. It's definitely our goal in creating the film. So we're just going to take some time just to walk you through some ideas for how you might utilize the film based on what we're hearing. Some folks are saying that they are going to be able to not only put it on their website, but share it with RAs. So wonderful. So one of the things that we mentioned is that all of the resources that we've talked about thus far are available on the Alarming Truth website, which you should see on the screen in front of you. And on that website, if you click on For Schools, you'll find a page that looks like this one, and that has a number of different options, how to download the film. It has a closed captioning file as well, the Alarming Truth Screening Guide, multiple different versions of how you can access that. So the screening guide is really something that's available for you to use to figure out what will this look like in programming format. If this is something that we're going to do on our campus, what are some things that we might be able to pay attention to that we can incorporate? So one of the things that you'll see here, which is on page 4, is we've included an icebreaker activity in which you have students or participants stand up, close their eyes, and spin around in a circle slowly. And as the facilitator, what you'll do is you'll quietly move to another location in the room as they do this, and then you'll direct participants with their eyes still closed to point to the location of the exits. Eventually, you'll then have them open their eyes while they're still pointing to see where they're pointing. So it's certainly something that you'll want to practice ahead of time. We had a lot of fun practicing it in-house, and then certainly we also did it with some of the practitioners who came to our in-person seminars. But essentially what we found is that the icebreakers are a really great way to get the group feeling comfortable and to start a discussion about how easy it is to become disoriented in a place they know well, particularly if that place is filled with smoke. So like in other areas, this is just a suggestion for something that you might use or incorporate, but either way, we really would encourage you to take some time to think about what icebreaker are you going to use, as it really does typically impact how comfortable students feel during the session. We also have worked in a number of different discussion questions, like the one in front of you, which is on page 6, which is if you were a character in The Alarming Truth, what could you have done differently to affect or done to prevent the outcome of this situation? And so really the goal that we had in mind when coming up with some of these different discussion questions is to use the film as a conversation starter and to really encourage dialogue with the students about what they're observing within their own community and how they think it can help prevent some of these scenarios within their own environment. We had that even in the student feedback sessions. We had a lot of dialogue with students about what they were seeing, particularly within some of these off-campus housing environments. So that's one option. Another similar activity, or an activity that requires similar interaction, is an impact of fire activity, which is on page 5, which asks students to identify who and how individuals are impacted by fire. So you can use the film as a starting point, but then you can also expand it to who would be impacted if a similar incident would occur within your own campus community. So the goal is really to help them recognize that it's more than just the victim or the victim's family that's impacted, and that there are numerous types of losses, which certainly includes loss of life, but could also include their items, the semester's work of work, or other materials, and that individuals might have to cope with the physical and emotional trauma of such an incident. So we're not going to go through every element of the guide because certainly it's available to you, but we hope that you'll be able to take the time to go through the guide and to determine what's a good fit for your campus. So again, there's a menu of options, other activities, case studies, additional videos that are described in the guide, and we know that only you know best what is going to work for your community. But we always encourage you to remember that students have different learning styles, so it's really best to mix and match some of these different types of activities that you'll find in here to account for all of those different styles. So after you've had the chance to read through the guide, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We'll definitely have contact information at the end of the webinar, so you're able to connect with us and have some time at the end in case you do have any questions about anything that we've shared thus far. We will have time for questions and answers in just a few moments. But before we do that, we also want to reiterate that we certainly don't think that there's any magical solution for prevention, or as we've been saying, if you have found the magical solution for prevention, please let us know. So rather than a once and done process, prevention really requires sharing the message of fire safety through a number of different means. And that's why we were so excited to have so many different folks on this webinar, because it's clear that you're using some of that multidisciplinary approach. And we want to hear a little bit more about what you're doing and then share some ideas about what we're seeing that works or might present some challenges. So because of that, we have another quick poll question. So which fire safety educational strategies do you use on your campus? We know that there's quite a few. We've listed just a couple on the screen. So if you could take some time and provide your feedback about which ones have you utilized on your own campus. And as you keep on doing that and fill in some of the approaches that you're using, Ed's going to talk a little bit more about what he's seen working nationally and some tips and ideas to think about as you build a more comprehensive program. So we'll just wrap up that poll, and then he'll talk a little bit more about some of those themes. Great. So overwhelmingly, people talked about fire extinguisher training, informational tables, and we'll have some ideas and suggestions with that. Using social media, incorporating videos, 41% of you, so hopefully the alarming truth is a good fit for those of you who do that kind of work, and demonstration burns. So Ed, I'll turn it over to you to get some thoughts.
And I just also wanted to mention too, as far as videos, well, I know you went over that, just to not forget the other videos that we've included for you on our resources page.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what we're going to be talking about now are what I call 10 things to try. And there's certainly more than 10 things to try. But these are some of the things I've seen in common use around campuses. And it's not that any one is right or any one that's wrong. It really depends on your situation. But also, I've been looking at them in kind of a unique way. The first one is looking at your effort that you've expended on doing these and what's your return on investment. I'm sure that most of you, if not all of you out there, have not seen a significant increase in your budget and probably haven't seen a lot of staff added to your department. So given that, you do have to kind of look at what you're doing and what kind of return on investment are you getting, because the bottom line is that we're looking to change the behavior of students. And some of the things are easy to do, and you can kind of check them off and say that you did them, but really, did it affect behavioral change? And that's really the bottom line that we're looking at. We want students to make themselves fire safe. We can only do so much, and it is ultimately their own responsibility. That's what it comes down to. So we're going to quickly just talk about some of the things here, what I call the 10 things to try. There's certainly a lot more, but these are just some of the top 10 that I've seen out there. And I like lists, and we'll be talking about that. Probably the first one, and one of the easiest ones, is articles. As Abby mentioned, you know, fire prevention or any prevention program is not a one and done. So many schools do programs during September, which is Campus Fire Safety Month, across the nation. I think it's up to about 34 or 35 governors have issued proclamations right now. So a lot of schools do activities during September when students come back, which is great. But also, it's something that you just need to kind of keep in the forefront of their minds throughout the year. So what you can do is really have a whole series of articles in hand that you can be putting out there, because so many of the student newspapers are always looking for content. They're always looking for material. And if you write a short article with each one focusing on a different topic, don't try to put it all into one article. Don't try to list a dozen things that they need to do to keep fire safe. You can take each article and for each month focus on a different topic. Like maybe November will be holiday fire safety as we're getting into Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the other holidays. Maybe December will be heating, you know, how to use a space heater safely. So each month you have a different topic that you're focusing on, and these are articles that are timeless. You can write them up, have them in the can, and then each month send them to the student newspaper where they can put them in the paper, they can post them on their website, and you can also use these articles in the local newspapers as well. Because trust me, the students really are looking at this sort of stuff, whether it's still the written one, the online one, or even in the community. You can get the word out there one way or the other, and you can also use it on your social media website. Lists are really good. The attention span of people nowadays, because of the internet, is just really abbreviated. So they're really looking for lists, such as this one right in front of you. You know, what are the top 10 things to try? You've seen that with David Letterman all the time. So really, if you can distill down your things into lists that they can easily read and easily absorb, it's another great way to go. Being concise is just so important in this day and age with this generation. Mock-up burns. I noticed that looking at the results, 12% of you do demonstration burns on campus. I've done a number of these. I've been to a number of these. They are highly effective. However, if you really look around, how many students do you have there watching them? If you look at the crowd, how much of the crowd is made up of your own people, the fire department? How many of them are actually students? And out of the total population of your school, what percentage are you hitting with these markup burns, these demonstration burns? Like I said, they're really effective for the few that are there. It takes a lot of effort to put them on. So you have to really look at your return on investment for doing something like that. A lot of you, almost 70% of you, 69% of you do fire extinguisher training. And I think fire extinguisher training is great because it's relatively simple to do. You can do it anywhere. Everybody loves the chance to blow off a fire extinguisher without getting in trouble on it. And while you're doing it, it's also a chance to just maybe slip in another fire safety message beyond the fire extinguisher training. That's where you can mention smoke alarms, or that's where you can mention two ways out. Don't overload them. But really, that's a great training tool, fire extinguisher training. Cheap, it's easy to do. You can do it in a number of locations. Very attractive. A lot of people like doing them. For those of you who have done them, I think you've all gotten a very positive reaction off of that. Twitter. Twitter is the big thing nowadays. You know, and very few, only 14% of you are actually using Twitter right now. It's a tough thing to measure your return on investment on that. You put a message out there, and yeah, you can say it was retweeted X number of times or got so many impressions and all that sort of thing. But again, keep in mind, you know, we're trying to go for behavioral change. And how much behavioral change do we affect with Twitter? On the other hand, it's easy. It's cheap. In other words, it's free. So really, why not? You know, it's one of those things, what do you have to lose by doing it? You know, you're not sure what your ROI is on that, your return on investment, but boy, the effort expended to do it is really low. And we're actually doing that during September. Campus Fire Watch and our Twitter handle, we're putting out a tip a day, which people are then taking and retweeting out there pretty broadly. It's being pretty widely used. So if you're following us on @CampusFireWatch, you can see our tip a day that we're putting out there and just use that to send back out again as well. Videos, unquestionably, hands down, are one of the best ways to communicate a message out there. Certainly we like alarming truth. As mentioned earlier by Amy and Abby, we had a lot of student input into this. The genesis of this project was such that it was not the original plan. The ultimate video was not what was originally planned. And that was because of the students telling us, no, this is what would work with students. This is what would appeal to them. You know, so we really kind of ripped it apart and redid it and went in a different direction on it. So, and the other thing too is that it doesn't have to be videos that you have to create, but you can also create your own. If you look around, there's plenty of homegrown videos that are simple, easy to do. You can shoot them on an iPhone, you can edit them on a tablet, and you can post them to YouTube in no time at all. So if you've got some creative students out there, they're able to put together some creative videos for you, more power to you. And you have to be ready. It might be a little bit edgy, might be not what you're expecting or what you're used to, but you have to keep in mind that's what the audience might be looking for, that kind of information, that kind of style out there. So videos are a great way to go. And if you don't do it yourself, you can certainly search the internet and find plenty of them out there of what they can do. We also have a whole host of them here on the Alarming Truth website that have come from other sources, such as Campus Firewatch. We've done some. The Minger Foundation has done a number of them. So there's a lot of video resources out there that you can use, and you can embed on your own YouTube channel. I noticed one of you already has embedded Alarming Truth on your Facebook page. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. So really, it's just videos that you can use. Informational tables. A lot of you do those. 45% of you do those, where you set up a table in the student union or something like that. That's one of those, yeah, they're pretty easy to do, but really, what's your return on investment on something like that? You can say you handed out X number of brochures, but you know, personally, I don't put a lot of faith in brochures because you know what happens there. They just wind up in the circular file. They generally get trashed. You know, so it's one of those things. And really, how many students do you really, truly interact with and really learn the information? Kind of a tip that I have seen and developed over time is if you are doing an informational table and you are showing a video, such as the Alarming Truth, I really suggest you get a monitor on a stand so it's above the crowd. So that way people walking by can easily stop and look at it without actually having to come up and approach the table, which might be intimidating. If you've got it sitting down low on a monitor or a laptop, as soon as you have 1, 2, or 3 people lined up in front of the table, nobody else can see it. But if you have it on a stand on a monitor, it's easy for people walking by to see it, to stop and look at it for a minute. And also, you're going to stand out a little bit more than all those other tables that are there that probably don't have something similar to it. Project. What I mean by a project is a campus fire safety community service project. We've been doing these with the Minger Foundation, where many fire departments are already doing home fire safety visits and smoke alarm installs. What we're doing is getting the students going with them when they do these. And the students are assisting the fire departments by going into the homes, installing smoke alarms, and doing fire safety education. And what's happening is the students are learning about fire safety by doing fire safety. They are another resource to the fire department. Many schools do require the students do community service projects. So here's kind of a easy one to do. If your fire department's already doing these type of things, have the students go along with it. We're just finishing up the development of a training program and handouts through the Minger Foundation. They'll be available on their website soon, and we'll also make them available through the Alarming Truth as well. And they're easy to do. They're simple. We're talking to some fire departments now in the aftermath of some of the tragedies they've had. It's a good thing for students who are looking for something to do after the tragedy. They have this need, they have this urge, they want to do something to make a difference. Well, here's a good chance that you can steer that energy in that way. Ads on buses. Many of you have the bus systems that feed the students into your colleges and universities. Here's a chance to put those ads. We've done those on several campuses where you have the ads that go into the inside of the buses. Many of the bus systems will probably do it for free. You just have to print them up, and they're willing to post them in there. And I think the key in these ads is to keep them simple. Keep them brief. Use some of the tactics here, for example, lists. Just a few, statistics, a few bullet points. Don't overload them with information, but just something they can quickly look at and gather in. Stickers and posters. We started the stickers a number of years ago. What we did is we came up with a series of stickers with messages on them. For example, smoke alarms, got batteries, cook your dinner, not the kitchen, things like that. And what we did is we gave them out to the pizza shops in the community. And the pizza shops were more than willing to throw them on the pizza boxes as they went out the door. So it was a way to get some information out there in a quick and easy way. We also turned them into magnets, and Purdue University has really just taken this and really running with it this year. They had 2 unfortunate fires last year that killed 2 students. So they've taken the same concept and created stickers for smoke alarms with the message, keep me in and I'll get you out. Actually what they're doing is when they're going to the homes and doing home fire safety visits and installing smoke alarms, they're putting these stickers right next to the smoke alarms. So it's a very visual reminder, please don't tamper with the smoke alarms. They're also turning the stickers into magnets, and what they do with the magnets is they put them inside the stalls and bathrooms where the students can steal them, which is the idea, and get them into their hands. And some of the bars in the community are actually taking them and turning them into coasters as well, so that when they're going into the bars, they can see the same message time and time again, repeating it. Posters, we had some surveys with some RAs asking what kind of resources they need, and overwhelmingly they said posters. We need posters for the bulletin boards on our floors. So through the Minger Foundation, we've created a whole series of posters with different messages that you can download and use for free. So it's just another free resource that you can get in your hand as to what you can use when you're going out there. These are just ideas. As I mentioned, there are a lot more. Some work better than others. Some will work really great in your community. Some maybe not so well. You know your students and you know what will resonate with them more and more. And what I would really suggest is getting students involved in your campaigns or your programs or your projects so you can get that real world feedback from them about, yeah, this will work or no, it won't. We found that to be absolutely invaluable. If there's one thing that came out of the project, it's getting the student feedback right from the beginning. When we had the Rowan students involved, the focus groups, listening to your students as to what will work, because we all know fire safety is a tough sell. So working with them and learning what works is really just so critically important. So I'd really encourage that. And they may very well have ideas beyond this that will work successfully with their peers. So with that, back to you, Abby. Amy?
Great. And I think I just wanted to add to that that a lot of the resources that you've mentioned, we also have linked on the Alarming Truth website, so you can dig through there and find a lot of really great gems to use on your own campus. And I love some of the questions and comments that are coming in, so we want to go to some of those, but this is a great time. We're going to use the last 10 minutes just to respond to any questions that you have. If you want to share a little bit about something that you've done that isn't on the list or something that is on the list that's worked particularly well, we'd love for you to throw that into the chat section so that we can highlight that to the rest of the group. Some of the things that you've already mentioned that we just wanted to give you some feedback on. One of the questions is, where do we get, which has been partially answered, where do we get some examples of what people have posted on Twitter and what some of that language can look like? So the best place is to start by following Campus Firewatch on Twitter. He uses, or Campus Firewatch uses that handle, so you can find that pretty easily. And also the Cleary Center has been doing daily tweets as well related to campus safety, so not just fire safety, but more broadly. So if you're looking for some of that sample language, as well as one of our resources that we have provided for National Campus Safety Awareness Month was a social media guide that also drafted some language on a number of different issues, which is a useful resource.
Mm-hmm. And I also
To add to that too, Abby, on the Campus Firewatch website, I've listed all the messages that are going out over the month. So if you look on the resource page, you can find the full list of tweets that I'm putting out over the month. So
I think another good important point to mention too, especially as far as measuring the engagement of students, we're really looking for some great examples from you all. If you have a particular Twitter account or Facebook account that gets a high amount of engagement from students and response from students, some of the examples of your posts would be really helpful for others. You know, so you can always share them with us, and we can send them around to everyone as well.
And I think that evaluation piece is something that we've highlighted quite a bit, because we think that it's so important, and many of the folks that we've spoken with throughout the summer have said the same thing, that maybe they've been doing the same types of education over and over, but to this point they haven't really had a system for evaluating its effectiveness or whether or not it's working. So knowing that establishing some type of structure, whether that means working with faculty on your campus that could help you draft evaluation, whether that's learning from peers that may have some sort of structure already in place, really trying to get a sense of where is this information, how is this information being used, and are we seeing a result on our campus is really valuable. One of the other comments that's coming in is someone mentioned that FEMA has college level brochures that can be downloaded free and printed. So that's another really great opportunity to do that. One of the things that we've been doing for National Campus Safety Awareness Month is for folks that have signed up to receive our weekly emails, we sent out a list of a number of different professional development resources that can really help inform the process or inform some of the programs that folks use on their campus. So part of those resources have been things even outside of the individuals working on or organizations working on this project, are just a number of different things that we've seen in the field related to fire safety, but also related to some of the other topics that we've covered this month to really help to inform some of what you're doing on your own campus. So excellent. It's been really incredible just to be able to look at how people are using the film and what kinds of resources are valuable for them. A lot of you mentioned either already sharing it with RAs or you plan to share it with RAs. One person mentioned that they'll air it in their Women's Center as well as sharing it with Res Life. So this is really what we were hoping to see. And so many of you mentioned using a number of these different things that we've listed in order to educate your own community. And so that's really what we encourage, is that we certainly don't think that it's a one-size-fits-all type of answer, but we do think that a comprehensive approach trying to figure out who on our campus could be involved in doing this type of education. It doesn't just fall on one person or one department. There are a number of different people that can benefit from doing this type of training, and also by making sure that all of the different individuals that work with fire safety are giving the same message. One of the other questions that came in was regarding to the video and the fact that we did highlight smoking in the video. And some of you mentioned some other areas where on your particular campus you're seeing some issues. And so that's where, you know, I know that I had talked a little bit about all of the different ways to engage your audience. That might be an opportunity where if you see a need on your campus beyond what is covered in this film, I know he discussed quite a bit about why we really tried to drill down on 3 specific areas, because if you try to teach everything at once, unfortunately, they may not take away what you're looking to tell them, but that might be an opportunity to do some sort of complementary project. So if you're seeing another area that on your campus you have a specific concern, say you have a specific event every year where you're seeing an increase in fires or an increase in these types of incidents, that might be a great opportunity to engage students on your campus to make your own video or to do your own particular project. So we hope that you'll use this as one tool, but also we'll really look to your campus to inform what else you do to go along with that or to assist with that. We'll keep a few moments for any other questions. I think we addressed all of the ones that came in thus far.
Abby?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one question that came in, and I kind of it made me realize that the point we didn't make is this really focuses on off-campus occupancies, because that's where 4 out of 5 fire deaths happen. That's where 2/3 of the students live. And I think we kind of neglected to maybe make that point of we really wanted to focus where the problem is. For example, somebody asked if we use NFIRS reports or database to focus on specific areas, and no, we don't, because nobody really tracks in a central database like NFIRS off-campus fires. There's no box for a firefighter to check on the NFIRS report saying this was off-campus. So all the information we've been gathering is anecdotal when it comes to those occupancies. But I think you talk to any fire chief, you talk to any college or university, and they're going to tell you that clearly the risk is off-campus. You know, since 2000, when I first started collecting all this information and this data, only 10% of the fire fatalities have happened in a dorm. Only 10% have happened in, or less than 10%, actually, it's sorry, 7% have happened in a residence hall, and 7% have happened in Greek housing. The risk, over 85%, is off-campus housing. So that's why we really focused on that for this video.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really important point to make. And also, you know, we'd love to hear, even beyond this webinar itself, we would love to hear what you're doing on your campus, some of the educational strategies that you're using, as well as how you've utilized the video. So we do have some information, some contact information on the screen for follow-up. Even though we're just about out of time, we really want to thank Ed for joining us and for all of you for participating in today's webinar. As a reminder, in your chat panel, as Amy mentioned a little bit earlier, you'll see a link to an evaluation for today's webinar. So we'd really appreciate if you take a few short minutes just to share your own thoughts and your own feedback. And again, we'd love to see what kind of content you'd like to see more of as we plan additional webinars throughout the year. We've had quite a bit of positive feedback for all the webinars we've done so far this month, so we want to do more of that. This webinar was just one of 7 webinars that our center has organized for National Campus Safety Awareness Month. You can visit our website at www.clearycenter.org to register for our final webinar, which will take place next Thursday and will focus on building a comprehensive prevention education calendar at a college or university. You can also connect to more professional development resources by visiting the Education tab on our homepage and clicking on NACSAM, which stands for National Campus Safety Awareness Month 2014. So we certainly encourage you to do that and to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, as well as Campus Firewatch and our other project partners. And you can follow us for daily campus safety information, so using one of those tools that we just talked about a minute ago. This webinar was recorded, so that recording will be shared online and will be emailed to all of you within 48 hours. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us using the email address info@clearycenter.org, which you see on the screen in front of you. It looks like there are no more questions coming in, so we're going to wrap it up there. But again, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you dedicating your time to find out more about this incredible resource, and we really hope that you have a great day, and will reach out to us if you have any other questions. Thank you so much. Bye.